Hello, I'm your AI assistant. How can I help you today?
You don't actually need to help me. This is actually just a showcase of the fact that I was able to create an AI assistant that's self-hosted on AWS. What do you think of that?
Oh, wow. That's really impressive. Building and self-hosting an AI system on AWS is quite an accomplishment.
All right, you've read the title. Thanks for watching, which by the way has to be one of the most frustrating videos I've made up until today because I found 0 tutorials on how to do this. So I had to sort of feel my way out. But without further ado, as you've seen from the title and what I just showed you, I'm essentially gonna cover how to deploy from scratch a LiveKit agent on AWS completely self-hosted. So without further ado, let's get started. A few things to keep in mind. This tutorial is meant for people who aren't necessarily developers. I don't consider myself one. So finding information on this topic was pretty challenging. All of the code will be available in the description below if you want to follow along. And essentially the tech stack that we're gonna use is we're gonna use LiveKit infrastructure hosted on AWS and then connected to Twilio to actually be able to receive calls. Now you might be asking, why in the world would I want to connect to AWS? Why would I even want to self-host? The reason you might want to self-host is if you deal with scalability issues, if you have to be super compliant with SOC 2, HIPAA, things like that, which is what we deal with a lot. I want to be able to control the entire data flow, and I want to be able to make sure that our systems don't go down for no reason and that we have recourse. Also, we are then in charge of security, which for our purposes is super important. So on that note, let's build an AWS agent. Now, step one, my suggestion is to download AI IDE like Cursor, for example. The reason why you would want to do that is this video might very well be outdated by the time you watch it. Things might change. There might be an update that you want to make that I'm not going to cover in this video. Well, unless you want to spend a whole bunch of time trying to figure this stuff out by yourself, go on ChatGPT and then bring your code in, what Cursor allows you to do is to essentially, you can talk to your development environment to tell it to make specific changes. So let's say, for example, you want to change the prompt or you want to add a tool to your voice agent. Instead of writing the code yourself, you can tell Cursor using this AI panel right here, I want to make, X change, whatever that change is. And you can ask it questions about what the code does as well. I'm not gonna make a change right now, but I would highly recommend you download either Cursor. I think Warp does the same thing, Claude Code as well. They all essentially work the same way, but give yourself an unfair advantage and just use AI to write a lot of this stuff. Now, with all that out of the way, let's actually start launching the system. Once you've downloaded the repo, you're gonna open up Cursor and then you wanna open up a new project. You can press Command-Shift-N and that'll open up a brand new Cursor thing. Then you can click on Open Project and you can then select the project that you just downloaded. For me, it was LiveKit-AWS. So that's all I had to do. And it'll then open up something that looks like this. Where you want to start is, you see where it says Start Here? That's named that for a reason. And I'm not gonna go over this too much because that's the point of this video, but in the event that you get lost, I have tried to write as much information within the repo itself. So you can go ahead and read through this. It just explains what we're gonna do, what you're gonna need. I'm gonna cover this pretty quickly. Obviously, computer, internet connection. You're gonna need probably a credit card to pay for some of these services that we're gonna sign up for. Email address, a phone to test your agent, and maybe a few hours of your time. And then once you're done reading this, like I mentioned, the tech stack is LiveKit, AWS, connected to Twilio. That's about it. The most important file in this entire repo is something called the Complete Development Guide .markdown. Once you click on that, I am going to go step by step through this guide. But if you ever get lost or you want to find the commands that I'm using, you can always just click on this guide and it will have all of these commands. Long story short, here's what we're gonna set up. Firstly, your computer, then your AWS account. Then we're gonna actually create some rules around cost limiting and to make sure you don't end up spending like 10 grand on AWS. Then we're gonna create your EC2 server. This is essentially your virtual computer or your server that will host your LiveKit agent. After that, we're going to look at getting some API keys to connect all the different softwares together. This agent is actually built within the server on Gemini, OpenAI, as well as Deepgram. And I'll talk more about them as they come up. Then we're going to connect to your server for the first time. We're going to install all of the code that you're looking at here on the server. We're going to deploy your agent, set up your Twilio phone number, test it, and then we're going to show you how to actually edit your agent's personality. So let's go. Like I said before, you don't need any programming experience. Every single command that I will use will be on here. This is very much made for somebody who is not tech savvy. Download. Step number one, download the file. Step number two, extract it or essentially open it up. And then we're gonna go into your terminal. This is where things start to get a little scary. I'm on a MacBook, so I'm gonna go over the MacBook steps, but obviously if you're on a Windows, just follow the step that says Windows. Step number one, we're gonna do Command space. That's gonna open up this little search bar. Type in terminal. That'll open up a little black box that looks like this. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and split my screens into two. And let me shorten this so you can see what I'm looking at. Cool, I've already done this step, which is I've opened up our terminal. Then I need to find our project folder. Now this might be different for you depending on where you saved it, but essentially all you really need to do is copy downloads first, because mine is in downloads. And you'll know this works when this says downloads right here. Then you want to go to same thing, CD, but down you want to put in LiveKit-AWS, and it should then open up this specific folder. That's how you know this worked. Now to make sure that you have the right folder, you can just press on LS if you're on Mac, and it'll then open up a bunch of different folders within the folder you're in. And you should see stuff like AWS cost protection, check LiveKit API, etc. That means you did it correctly. So now we're gonna go into AWS. If you haven't used AWS before, it stands for Amazon Web Services. Essentially, it's a fairly cheap and a fairly secure way of deploying different applications. They have like 1,000 different services, but the one we're interested in, at least today, is their EC2 service, which essentially is a way of create servers where you can host different agents. From a new browser, I'm gonna go to AWS, just Google it, and the first link that pops up will be Amazon Web Services. If you don't have an account, go ahead and create one. It's pretty simple, but I already have one, so I'm just gonna go ahead and sign in. Once you've signed in to AWS, the next step, let's go back to our deployment guide. And this just shows you how to fill out AWS. You now want to log into your console, which I've already done. And you can set up a budget as well. So the way to do that is if you just in the search bar, search up budget. This is always a good idea to do. Here's an example. Let's imagine you forgot your phone on with your voice agent and you never turned it off. That could be consuming tokens just constantly. You don't want that, obviously. So you want to make sure that you put a limit as to how much money you want to spend on AWS, especially if this is your first time using it, because I've seen horror stories of people spending thousands because they just ignored this one super easy step. So just put a budget. You can go ahead and click on create budget, use a template, that's fine, zero spend, call it monthly cost, and then just put whatever cost you're comfortable spending, right? Like 50, 100, 1,000, up to you. I'm gonna press cancel because I've already had one, but you can create a budget and then that's all you have to do really. So for example, I created this, I think 2 days ago or yesterday, and I'm already at $5. But I know the maximum I can spend on AWS is 50 bucks. Once again, all of the exact details are within this document. Just to not make this video 3 hours long, I'm going through the broad strokes. And then you can set up sort of different billing alerts, which essentially is just a way for AWS to inform you when you've reached certain thresholds of usage. Now onto the more interesting part, which is actually creating your EC2 server. So what you're gonna do from the search bar, you're just gonna type in EC2, click on that. And then from here, you're gonna wanna click on instances. Once you're in here, just as a showcase, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this specific instance because we don't need it. Instance settings. Where is it? Terminate delete instance. You can go ahead and delete it so that I can create one with you. Now if I were to refresh this page, it's shutting down. Cool. You're gonna press on launch instance. This is essentially gonna show you the instance creation page. Instance and server in this specific instance actually refer to the same thing, so you can use those terms interchangeably. Step number one is actually going to be naming your server. You can name this whatever you want. Let me go back to our guide to see what we named it here. I'm gonna push this to the side. Name your instance. So in this case, I've got it as LiveKit Voice Agent. Perfect. Copy that. Make sure that you have the L in here. And then the actual sort of language we want it to use is going to be Ubuntu. And then make sure you're using 22.04. Confirm changes. Instance type, this is essentially just how big it is. Which ones does it say here? Leave the rest as is, by the way. There's the 64-bit is fine. Instance type, let's switch that to T2 micro. And then the key pair login. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna delete my old key pair. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new key pair. A key pair is just a really secure method of giving access to your server, because you don't want anybody to just have random access to this thing, right? So by creating key pair, think of it like a username and password type deal. I'm going to name this key pair LiveKit-key, as it says here, right? This key pair already exists, okay. So let's see. In that case, I'm gonna call it LiveKit-key 2. That's fine. Create key pair. It's not going to download it to your system. Leave it as is. Network settings. This is where you want to create a new security group. And for context, the network settings or the security groups are just different rules that you establish that determine who can and can't access your server. So somebody could have your key pair, but if they're logging in from the wrong IP address, they still won't be able to get in. So for your security rules, here are the ones that we're going to create. There's about 7 of them. And I can go to edit. And I'm gonna go ahead and create a bunch of new ones. We already have one, which is an SSH type. That's the main one we're going to use. You're going to see a bunch of other ones. These are the ones that are going to be used by Twilio, by LiveKit to also access your server. You can leave the SSH type. I would put it as your IP address. Now, keep in mind, if you're using like a random internet cafe or if you're somewhere else, then this might cause you problems. So if that's the case, I would suggest doing anywhere. As long as this is just for demos, if you're in production, then you actually want to get somebody who's a security expert, just so that nobody can go into your server and abuse it. But because this is just a demo, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to put SSH, source type my IP, and then that's rule number 1. We're going to add 7 more or 6 more of these. And you know that we've done it right because it says type here SSH, type SSH, port 2222, source my IP, and then go to add security group rule. So rule number 2 is going to be a custom TCP. The port is going to be 7880, and the source type is going to become anywhere IPv4. That's number 2. Number 3 is going to be same thing, custom TCP, port range, and this one is going to be 7881, anywhere IPv4. Number 4, custom UDP, port range 5060, source type anywhere. 5, same thing. Just make sure you don't confuse UDP and TCP. Anywhere, and then press add security group rule, custom UDP 50,000-60,000. Then we have, this is rule number 6. 50,000-60,000, custom TCP, custom UDP. And then rule number 7, same thing, 10 to 20,000, custom UDP, 1,000, source type anywhere. And with that, you can now move on to configuring storage. You can leave it as is for now. Once again, it's just demos. You can make it bigger afterwards. And then with that, you can now launch your instance. That's about it for your EC2 server. It's actually pretty easy, right? As this is sort of launching, and you can see here it worked, you're going to want to actually see or get your server's IP address. Now in my case, now if you click back on instances, you're going to see your new instance that you created. I have 2 because I just deleted the other one, as you can tell by the thing that says terminated. But let's go ahead and actually find our IP address. I click here, and this is my server's IP address, the public one anyways. And you don't have to write it down because it's right here. You can always just pull it back up. So at this point, you should have a few different things. Your Amazon server running, you should have access to your public API key, and you should have an SSH key that you downloaded to your system earlier. Now let's move on to getting your OpenAI or your API keys. The actual links are here, but essentially the 3 platforms you're going to want are going to be OpenAI, right here. And there's steps on how to actually get those for each. You're also going to want to get your Gemini key or your Google keys, which you can do so by clicking here. Google AI Studio, that's fine. And then lastly, the Deepgram keys, which you can get by just clicking on here. Signing up for an account, getting your API keys, it's pretty straightforward. I already have them, so I won't waste your time with that. Once you have all of your different keys, let's actually connect your server for the first time. So remember that terminal that we had opened earlier? We're going to go back there. So you're on Mac Linux, open terminal, navigate to where your file is. So I already have my terminal, which is right here. I'm going to go back to downloads. And now I want to set the correct key permissions. I can go ahead and just copy this command. Now here's the thing. If you recall, I actually renamed this to LiveKit-key 2. So what I need to do is just put a 2 in front of this, and I'll know it works because when I press enter, nothing will come back. That means it worked. Now at this stage, we need to connect to our EC2 server. Following the commands here, I'm already in the right folder. Then the way to connect to it is going to be the following command. SSH-I, then the name of your key. Now in my case, I have to add a 2 in front of it, .pem, then Ubuntu, and lastly is going to be the public IP address of your server. So in my case, it's this number right here. I can go ahead and delete all of this and just paste my server IP address. Press enter. And then if this is the first time, it's going to say you have to press in essentially Y or yes. Then press enter. And you'll notice worked when you can see you're now logged in as essentially the root user into the server. Success. Congratulations, you have officially connected to your EC2 server. If you get errors, there's also some sort of help in here, so don't worry about it too much. And remember how I said you have cursor running in the background? Along any point you get stuck, just open up the AI panel and give it whatever error you're running across, and it should be able to help you correct said error. So next step, just for a bit of context. So on one side, we have our server, which is empty. There's nothing in it. On the other side, we have this folder that we've downloaded. We now need to put this folder into our server so that the server can run even if our machine is completely off, right? We have to make these two separate entities. So we have our empty server. The next step is actually going to be to take the folder that we have and put it into our server. And then the way to do that is you're going to want to open up a brand new terminal. You can do that by right-clicking on the terminal pad or key, new window, and you will now have two terminal sessions, right? And then if you're on Mac, you want to go to the right directory, which in my case was just LiveKit, I think it's AWS, and it worked. I am now on the LiveKit-AWS folder. So let's actually go ahead and upload all these files to our server. The way to do that on Mac is going to be the following command. Once again, remember that you have to change the specific IP address for your server, and this will be different for everybody. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it in here, and then I have to also change my LiveKit key name, because I had it too. And then if I press enter, it might take a second or two, but you should see a bunch of sort of uploads being generated. This means that it worked. Let it do its thing. It might take 2-3 minutes-ish, but it's just uploading all of our folders, onto our server. And with that, we're done. Now, the way that we check whether or not this was correctly done is we're gonna go back to the original terminal, which I just switched to, and you're gonna do the following command. If we've done it correctly, it should say that this folder exists. Because keep in mind, it was empty before this. And you'll know it works when you can see LiveKit Agent appearing here. And we can check even further by seeing all of the different files under this folder. And for us, we have all these files. Amazing. Now, next step is we actually want to start setting up the voice agent. So a few different commands we're going to have to run. This is to actually set it up. And the next one is going to be to run it. This also might take a minute or two. Just let it do its thing. Do not bother it. It's deploying a bunch of packages, essentially writing to your server. And we will be right back once this is done. And now it's very possible that you see screens that look like this. You can just press enter. It's essentially just asking for specific permissions. And just like that, it took about maybe 2 minutes, but I now see it says it's setup complete. What you have to do now, you have to log out of your server and then log back in just to make sure that you're using the right version. In my case, I can just press exit here. And we are, by the way, just for context, we are on step 7.3, I believe. Yeah, 7.3. Exit. And then to log back in, I just rerun the previous command and I'm now logged back in. By the way, the way to do that, what I just did, is press on the up arrow. That'll bring back up the previous command that you ran. Little shortcut. Now let's go back to our project folder. And then we're gonna actually go ahead and deploy it. So the next command we wanna run is this. We actually don't need to run this command because this is just to get your private IP address, but really it also shows up right here. So one more command we have to run at this point is gonna be to set some environment variables. And now we're gonna go ahead and edit it. So just run these two commands as I'm running them. Now this is where you wanna use those API keys that you got earlier. Remember the OpenAI, Gemini, and Deepgram? This is where you're gonna need them. The others are gonna be created automatically for you. So I'm going here, LiveKit URL. Now this one, this is where it says localhost. You wanna delete that and actually replace it with your private IP address, which I've got here. Then your LiveKit API key and your LiveKit API secret, you don't have to touch these will be generated for you. Your OpenAI AI key, I've already got mine, so I'm gonna use them. Now, once you're here and you've already used your API keys, just press Command X or Control X or whatever you need in your system. Press Y to save it, then press Enter, and it should bring you back. Right? That means you've done it correctly. Now we can go ahead and actually deploy the agent. Run these two commands right here. And this might take a second or two to actually create or deploy your agent. Just let it do its thing, don't bother it, and we will be back as soon as it's done. Now, while this is running, it's been running for about 1.5 minutes, I thought I should talk about how do you change stuff. My suggestion, if you aren't familiar with code, your best friend, and I will repeat it, is that AI panel within Cursor. Whatever questions you have, there's about 3 modes. You've got Ask, you've got plan, and you've got agent. The ask mode essentially just allows you to ask questions without doing anything to the code. The plan step is essentially a planner agent of sorts that you would ask if you have a big task you want to accomplish. And the agent mode is actually the one that can go into your folders and change stuff. So if you want to understand how any of the code works, or if you want to make a change, ask the AI panel. It is your best friend in these scenarios. And just like that, our deployment is complete on the Amazon EC2 side of things. You'll know it works because it should say service status up here with these 4 different services, and they should all say running or created. Now, on to the next step, and you can also check if they're running by just using this command, docker compose ps, and it will show you all the different services that are running. So, next step. Let's actually set up the LiveKit resources. Once again, if you're not sure what I'm referring to, just ask the AI panel. It'll explain the code to you specifically. It's your specific use case. We're gonna run a few packages or run a few installations first, just one by one. We're essentially just installing Python and LiveKit's API, stuff like that, and some libraries. Next up, we have this one right here. And last but not least, pip3 install LiveKit's API. Shouldn't take super long. Now we can just execute this one script or make it executable. And now to actually execute it, copy this code right here or this one instruction, get your public IP, which I can do from my Amazon EC2 website. And then from there, you should have your SIP trunk ID, which is right here, and the SIP trunk, the dispatch role ID as well. Perfect. We're on the final stretch. Now all we have to do is our agent's running on Amazon. We now just need a way to connect to it. Here's where Twilio comes into play. If you want to go ahead and open a brand new tab, go into Twilio. Now I already have a Twilio account, so I'm going to use my existing one. But if this is your first time, just go to twilio.com, log in. And we're just gonna buy a phone number and then connect it to our Amazon account. Go into phone numbers and then go to buy a phone number, and any number here, doesn't really matter. Obviously, if you're using this for a specific local area, you'd probably wanna use that. But in my case, I don't really mind. So I'm just gonna go ahead and buy this one. So once you bought your number, you wanna create what's called essentially a SIP trunk, which is just a way to tell Twilio, if something comes to this number, do this. It's a way of connecting different phone numbers to different softwares. And the way to create that is by simply going back into Twilio, search up SIP trunk, and you should find something that says elastic SIP trunks. Now I already have a few of them, but I'm going to create a brand new one, and I'm going to name it LiveKit 2. Now what you want to do from here, let's see what it says. The SIP URI, which is essentially the address for the SIP trunk, is going to be the following. Go to origination, and then click on add new origination URI, and then replace where it says your public IP with your public IP. Change the priority to 1, just so that they're the most important. And then all you really need to do is just add your phone number in here, where it says add number, add an existing number, and then just add a number you just bought. So in my case, that number was the following. Add selected. And then all you really need to do is click on view details, and you should also be able to see that you've done it correctly, because in here where it says when a call comes in, configure with SIP trunk LiveKit-trunk2. Then that's about it. Now all you really need to do is make a test call and see if it worked.
Hello, I'm your AI.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Hello? Hi there. Yes, I can hear you just fine. How can I help you today?
This is kind of cool. This is a completely self-hosted AI agent.
That's right. I'm here and ready to assist. What can I do for you?
You've already done plenty. Thank you very much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have officially connected your LiveKit agent to AWS running on your own server completely separate from the outside world, and you have connected Twilio to it in about 45 minutes-ish. And sometimes it can take a few seconds for the server to sort of really pick it up. So if you do call it immediately, like I just did, and it doesn't pick up, just wait a few seconds, call it back, and it should work. If that doesn't function, once again, the last thing I'll leave you with is this panel right here where it says AI panel. This is what you want to ask it to do. So if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to reach out, comment, and I'll try my very best to help you out. Thank you very much for watching. The next video is I want to get really deep into tools, calendars. I also want to talk about screen sharing possibilities with LiveKit, which I'm super interested in at the moment. So I'll keep you in the loop, and thanks for watching.